So here we are at the Portainer homepage, or main page, when you log in, and we can see that currently we only have the one local managed environment. So this would be the environment that Portainer server is running on, but besides that, we do not have any other environments to which we can deploy our software. So in order to do that, to add new environments, we can go to our Environments tab, and we can select Add Environment. Portainer provides you different options for the type of environment that you're looking to add. So we can use Docker Standalone, Kubernetes, Nomad. Portainer can also help create Kubernetes clusters or manage ones that already exist. So for example, we'll click Docker Standalone, since most edge devices will be running only Docker due to size. On this page, we presented with different types of agents. For industrial use cases, we've developed our Edge agent, which allows you to, which is slightly different than our traditional agent in that the Edge agent pings towards the Portainer server in order to receive new requests. That means that you do not have to open up any firewall port access, any ports to your devices once they're in the factory. They just need an outbound connection to the central Portainer server. As you can see here, we just need to provide a name. So we can say Edge device, for example. Portainer will automatically fill in the server information for you, and we click Create. We're then provided with a script here that you can run in the device itself, and once that device is added or started up, it will appear in our main page. Obviously, since I haven't run the script yet, it just appears as a non-associated environment. However, that's great for doing one-off installations or just adding singular devices at a time. But for doing fleet management, which is often the case with industrial IoT and IoT projects in general, we need something that's a little bit more robust and will allow us to rapidly provision new devices and get them added into the Portainer world. So for this, we have our auto onboarding feature. Now you see that it looks very similar to the last page, except with a couple of few differences. Portainer still provides a location for the server, for the device, the end device, to be able to ping back home and receive commands. We also provide at the start we can set the group. So for example, Docker, you could imagine having a group for production or a group for testing. This is to allow role-based access controls to your different devices. Additionally, we can tag our devices. And for this example, since we're partnering with InRay, we will tag it with InRay so that these devices that join, we know that they're going to be running InRay's software. This edge group is very important. You can think of these different than the regular group. You can think of the edge groups as your application groups. So you can make this as granular as you want. You could imagine even having different tags for different versions of the same software, and then managing those different edge groups. Exactly. Then finally, what we have to do is we have to set our Edge ID. Now, this is just a unique identifier for each of the Edge devices. So, for example, you can use hostname. You could do UUID generator. As you can see here, Portainer is automatically filling this function out with the function that you put in here. But the most important thing is that the Edge IDs are unique. So you can use your own identification scheme for your devices. All that matters is you enter that function in here. So let's do hostname, for example. We can select the type of environment we want to add. Since we're using Edge devices that are smaller, we want the Docker Standalone. And you can see here that that Portainer provides you the script that can be that will start the Edge agent automatically. But this script can be used by any device. So this is a sort of a global script that can be used. In comparison to the last singular onboarding, you can put this script, for example, in a boot script for your devices or a golden image, and it will be run then on startup, for example, and then the devices will appear. And they will appear then in this waiting room waiting to be added. So I have actually pre-provisioned a few devices with this script. So I'll go over here and provision them. They're just booting up, and one of the boot scripts is Portainer, or Portainer is part of the boot script. And after a few moments, we'll start to see some of the devices show up here. So we'll just wait for that. As I mentioned, you have these edge groups. So we can go in here while we're waiting for those devices and show you a little bit how the edge groups are created. So you can create a group like so. You can either select static, so you can manually add the different devices into the edge group. You can also choose dynamic, which is what I'm using here, and match against a particular tag. So any new device that gets added with that particular tag, regardless of what type of environment it is, it will automatically be added into this edge group. All right, so you can see that we have all of our devices here, and you can see the last time it checked in. So these devices, like I said, are pinging to the Portainer server to get to be ready to be added. So we'll select all of them and associate the devices. It'll just take a second since there's about 50 devices in this. And if we go back to the home page, you can see we have automatically the devices ready to be used. We can click into them, for example. You can see what's going on with each device. Obviously, right now, since we just added them, there aren't any applications on there. So once you're in the device, Portainer gives you full control of what type of applications you want to deploy. So we have app templates that we provide out of the box for commonly asked tools. These are essentially Docker Compose files in the background that Portainer can run. So if we click Postgres, for example, we can name it. You can set the passwords and the user, and you can deploy the container to that particular device. Again, this is great for one-off application development, but when we're really talking about full life cycle, we're going to want to deploy to many different devices at the same time, and also use best practices for GitOps. This is where we can go into our edge stacks. So like any normal stack, you can paste in the Docker Compose, you can upload the file, but in this case, we are going to use a Git repository. So here I have a repo that I set up with with a Docker Compose, a project file, so how OPC router is going to run, and a configs folder. And in this folder, I have listed all of the different configuration files for the different devices based on their name. And this is where that ID before that we were using comes in handy. Portainer can actually, which I'll show you in just a second, can actually distribute proper configurations to your devices based on their edge ID. And let me name this first. So I'll just say OPC router edge. I will select the edge group for InRay. And as you can see, since it's only Docker standalone environments, all the other options are grayed out. And then I copy in the location of the repo. I choose the branch that I'm using. So again, you could think of this for also testing purposes. You can have different feature branches that are running on different edge devices. So to kind of complete your full development to production life cycle. We'll just specify where the Docker Compose is. And then we'll turn on GitOps updates. So Portainer can either pull the repo for changes, and this is where the concept of GitOps I was mentioning before comes in. So anytime there's a change to this repo, Portainer can frequently check. You can also integrate a webhook into your pipeline. So then we can also enable relative paths, which allows us to copy over data from this from our repo, such as configurations, whatever, and that's what we're going to be using it for. So we will we'll specify the configs folder, and then we're going to say that match the file name with the Portainer edge ID. I'm just going to click retry deployment in case any of the deployments fail. Then we just wanted to rerun the Docker Compose. You can also define how many devices at once you want to be receiving updates. So obviously, if you're in a production environment, you don't want all of your devices going down when they're getting the new software. In our case, we can just do all devices at once. And now that we've had that all filled out, we can deploy our stack to the devices. We're presented this page. We can see the active status. So I'll just refresh. And you can see that all of the different machines have now received the command to start OPC router. And now 347 have it running. Now it's increasing, obviously. And we'll just wait for those to start up. The key is, if we want to go into a little bit of the nitty-gritty, let's say, of the system, we can actually connect into the container for OPC router. And I can show you that we have a configs folder. And you can see for Edge device 54, Portainer has actually pulled from the repository the proper configuration and placed only that configuration on the device. So not only have we deployed the software, we have configured it, because you can imagine in a normal industrial setting, even if you're using the same types of software, the configurations can change. Now that could be changing the endpoints where it needs to connect to. That can be naming. That can be whatever your application needs. Portainer can do that. You can also do that after you've deployed using our Edge configuration. This is more of a manual thing, but it functions the same. You can upload a zip file, and Portainer then will deploy those configurations. So let's check and see if we have an update on our devices. So you can see that we're receiving different types of information. So let's refresh it again, and we're getting new information being pulled from our InfluxDB. So the application itself, the in-array application itself, is pulling factory data and transforming it and pushing it from an OPC UA device to Influx, traditional IT software, and then we're using Grafana as a dashboard to showcase what's going on in the machines. I can show you a little bit about how that file looks. For example, this is OPC router from InRay, a great partner of ours and a really cool tool. So you can see that we're actually getting different variables. So we're getting pressure, humidity, and temperature from the machine. We're passing in the specific machine name, and we are sending over the data whenever it changes from the machine, and then it gets pushed to InfluxDB and then Grafana. So in all, you can see that Portainer really enables you to rapidly and massively deploy initialize your fleets of IoT devices and IIoT devices. It gives you granular controls of how you want to deploy your applications. It allows you to configure your applications over the air, and all within several minutes. So thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. My name is Andrew Heimerman from Portainer.